Adeline McKibben, Victor D'Amico, Natalie Robinson Cole, June King McPhee, Charles Gateskill, Edmund Feldman, Laura Chapman, Eugene Grigsby, Elliot Eisner, John Michael, and many, many more. We are now pleased and honored to add Dr. Knight to this list. With that, I'd like to hand it over to my colleague, Dr. Stephanie Denker.
Thank you, Stephanie. Yes, I'd just like to second everything that Dr. Baird just said, welcoming all of our guests tonight. We have people from faculty, so from the art department, we have administrators from the art department, and our dean, Liz Molnix, is here. We also have local and regional educators. We have our Miami University student chapter of NAEA here, and lots of art education students. So when I was looking at the registrants from the list tonight, I noticed there are the most people coming from Miami University, but then we also have people that have registered from Bowling Green State University, University of Dayton, Penn State University, Tennessee Tech University, University of Illinois, Ohio Dominican University, and Lakota School District, among others. And we also are very privileged to have Marianne Stankovitz here with us, who is a former recipient of the Autobiographical lecture. So thank you to all of you for being here with us tonight. I'd like to pass it back to Stephanie Bair.
All right. It's an especially poignant year this year for our program as we honor the life of Betty Michael, who passed away this year. I don't want to step on any toes if her kids were able to come tonight, so please unmute if you happen to be here and would like to say anything. But I do have some written statements from Elizabeth Lau, their daughter, who had some wonderful things to say about Betty. On behalf of my brother and myself, we would like to thank Miami University for the continued support of the John and Betty Michael Autobiographical Distinguished Lecture in Art Education Lecture Series. This was such an important event to both of my parents and is something that we will continue to support since both of our parents have passed. My dad would have been 100 years old this year, and my mom just passed short of turning 96 in April. My mom always said that Dad was the artist, but she was an artist in her own right. She loved music. She took piano lessons at the College Conservatory of Music at the University of Cincinnati and sang with the May Festival Choir at Music Hall in Cincinnati. While she supported the arts, she also supported the endeavors of my dad. When my dad organized the lectures, the evening would include a reception at our home. My mom would cook and clean for days getting ready for the event. So many amazing art educators came to our home with my mom standing right next to my dad when they arrived. So many students and faculty came to our home as well. My mom and dad welcomed one and all to visit on those special occasions. The names of some of the lectures became so commonplace in conversations, it's no wonder that we named two stray kittens, Victor Lowenfeld and Victor D'Amico. Funny thing is, those cats turned out to be females, so we had to adjust their names to Loie and Vicky. I'm just so glad that the tradition of celebrating distinguished art educators continues so that future teachers can meet and share in their wisdom. We also want to thank Stephanie and Stephanie, who take their time and efforts to organize this event. We saw our dad doing it, so we know what it takes. I also want to thank them for bringing new ideas to the series, mainly making this a virtual event so that so many more students and professionals can benefit from the event. Thank you so much for fulfilling my parents' vision. And I would like to say, I know along with Dr. Denker, we want to thank Elizabeth and her continued support of the series. It's an incredible opportunity, and we're really excited about the continued exposure that it's getting and more people that we're able to invite to these events. With that, I'll turn it back over to Dr. Denker to introduce our guest.
All right, thank you, Stephanie. Okay, this is an impressive bio. So here we go. Wanda B. Knight, PhD, Assistant Dean for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and Associate Professor of Art Education, African American Studies, and Women's Gender and Sexuality Studies at Penn State University, Harrisburg, is President-elect of the National Art Education Association, NAEA. Dr. Knight chaired the high-impact NAEA task force on equity, diversity, and inclusion that brought forth 16 recommendations that currently serve as a strategic priority for advancing equity, diversity, and inclusion throughout the NAEA community, including the recommendation to create the NAEA Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Commission, on which she now serves as Commissioner at Large. Besides university level teaching, Dr. Knight has served as a pre-K through 12 art teacher, an art museum educator, and a principal of elementary and secondary public schools. Having broken a glass ceiling by being the first woman of color elected to serve as NAEA president, her motivation to serve stems from her advocacy and long-term commitment to achieving equitable systems where everyone thrives. Dr. Knight's work concerning anti-racism and intercultural pre-service teacher preparation, culturally competent teaching, equity, diversity, inclusion, and social justice is published broadly. Her presentations span national and international locations. Her current projects are equity-minded and diversity-focused, including a forthcoming edited book, Lobby Activism, Impress 2021, and 2 upcoming single-authored books, Diversity, Pedagogy, and Visual Culture, and Breaking Barriers, Teacher Preparation for Culturally Competent Teaching and Classroom Management. Additionally, she is working on a co-authored book under contract for 2022 titled Principles for Teaching and Assessing Social Justice Art Education, Cultivating a Social Justice Curriculum for K-12 Schools. Dr. Knight's honors include the NAEA Distinguished Fellows Award, the Pennsylvania Art Education Association Outstanding Higher Education Art Educator Award, the National Art Education Association J. Eugene Grigsby Jr. Award for Outstanding Contributions to Art Education, and the Kenneth Marantz Distinguished Alumni Award from The Ohio State University, where she earned her PhD. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Wanda B. Knight.
Well, thank you so much for those kind words. And it really is an honor to be here amongst so many great people. Again, to be chosen for the 2022 John and Betty Michaels Autobiographical Distinguished as the lecturer is such an honor. First, I want to thank my creator for allowing me to be here in great health and spirit. Next, I want to honor those who came before me, those who are currently here, and those who will come after me. Also, I want to acknowledge that I am coming to you from the indigenous homelands of the Shawnee, the Susquehannock, and the Haudenosaunee indigenous people. So with that said, I'd like to go ahead and get started with my talk, and I'm going to share my screen. And I'm just going to assume, since I won't be able to see anyone or any chat features, if there is something going on that is going awry, no doubt you will alert me to that fact, I hope. So let me go ahead and share the screen at this point. Okay. And then I'm going to play from the beginning. Thank you. Okay. Somehow it just doesn't want to, PowerPoint doesn't want me to do what it needs to do, but it will shortly. It's going to play from the start. Okay, so this is my art education odyssey. And I'd like to say that no doubt my experiences as an art educator have been transformative. I'm speaking of transformative in the sense that I am not the same individual that I was before I started this journey. My vantage point is quite different now. So I think it's appropriate. Again, I'd like to use the butterfly as a metaphor to frame my transformation as an artist, art educator, administrator through art education. And I'll describe those stages in terms of the encapsulation, the consumption, the chrysalis, or the reflection, I'm calling it reflective stage, and transformation. So moving forward, I was born and reared in a somewhat isolated, rural, segregated community in Reidsville, North Carolina, in the deep South, without running water for a portion of my life. I did not recall having to contend with any such issues of racial, gender, and class bias until our schools became desegregated. And I want to also let people know that my father achieved only a grade school education, and my mother was a high school dropout. Yet I currently am an assistant dean and professor at a predominantly white research-oriented university. I hold a PhD in art education. You've already heard some of those credentials, on a master's degree in educational leadership, supervision, and administration, and a bachelor's degree in art education. So I keep thinking about how I got to where I am today. How have I resisted and responded to, I'm going to call them racial inequities and other forms of oppression? More importantly, how have my lived experiences of being a person of a different race than the dominant culture, of a different gender and class, which has also influenced and structured my transgressive teaching and coping strategies. So I want to talk a bit about Maya Angelou. She says, we delight in the beauty of the butterfly, but rarely admit the changes it has gone through to achieve that beauty. I want to let everybody know that as a woman of African descent, again, I've spent much of my life examining and challenging these structures of inequality that characterize public schools in this country. As one who cares deeply about social justice, my quest for a cure for social inequities continue to have a prevailing influence on my intellectual life. Racism, sexism, and classism, again, because all of those things directly affect me as a woman of color or Black woman. I look at how they impact the way that I'm judged for being so-called the wrong race or the wrong social class or the wrong gender. And I know that overt racism and classism or sexism refers to these open or unconcealed attitudes about individuals and that subordinate us or that subordinate and those that fall into those kinds of categories of being Black, female, and poor. That's a triple threat, and it can be overt or covert, deliberate or unintentional. But what I'm saying in this presentation is that whatever they are, the harmful outcomes are the same. I want to let everybody also know that it's really interesting in my odyssey or my journey that while I was growing up, I never took an art education course because they weren't offered in our schools. And our schools were segregated. And so I never had a course. I never visited a museum, an art museum, until I went to college. But yet I still recall my family being a family of makers, and you'll meet them a little bit later. So all of that is about, and though I talk about racial inequities, class related to class and gender, these are still social inequalities and entanglements. And if you look at the roots on the tree, I feel like it's just that complicated at an intersection, or these entangled in ways that you can't decipher. Is this coming from race? Is it coming from class? Is it coming from gender? And there could be so many other, I'm speaking of three, but no doubt there are disability kinds of concerns. There are LGBTQ plus kinds of concerns. I could just go on and on with different levels of oppression, but I'm speaking about three regarding my journey. And so my early schooling in segregated schools in the South mirrored those of other Blacks attending public schools. In these pre-segregation days, our Black schools had Black administrators, teachers, and staff. Arguably, student excellence was better served in Black communities by those professionals who looked like, cared about, and were committed to preparing Black youth to achieve at high levels. So according to some scholars, the expectations of the Black community and the shared culture of segregated schools supported the women's racial identity and encouraged them to achieve. Now, with that said, if academic achievement and success are ultimately influenced by how a student interacts with and is valued by his or her environment, following desegregation, Black youth entered hostile and devaluing environments where subtle and in many cases overt messages told us we were inferior and not valued human beings. Of course, I didn't buy into that, but nonetheless, I think about a particular person, and as I kind of move through these, and I'm going to use these entanglements and these images that I have, I'm thinking of one of our teachers that was my first experience. He was a large, bald, white male teacher. He hit students and he shoved misbehaving students. He slammed them into their desks. He would yell so loudly that his face would turn beet red and his veins in his neck would bulge. He really rarely missed an opportunity to tell us how stupid he thought we were. He even called us names like you brain strip morons, you lame brains, you numbskulls, and you knuckleheads. And so those were harsh terms. And I also recognize that in sharing some of these experiences that I have, we might be in a position to think these things no longer exist, but there are more covert, but these are overt examples that I'm sharing with you. And no doubt there are covert examples as well. So white teachers were often uncomfortable in their new Black surroundings and felt deep resentment, like this teacher did, about being forced into this new arrangement. As a result, many acted out their resentment and frustration against the very children, the Black children, whom the entire desegregation movement was supposed to help. So my family and my Black teachers have always reinforced the idea that I was smart or apt, as my grandpa Joe Neal would say, and you'll meet him later. My Black third grade teacher, Mrs. Akon, she was very influential with me. She even entered me in a spelling bee contest with eighth graders when I was in the third grade because she believed I was super smart. I was first run up in the spelling bee as a third grader against eighth graders. And so Mrs. Akon, and these are pseudonyms, as you might guess, unlike Mr. Bland, had very high expectations for her students. At times it appeared for me, I became she was giving me incessant extra work and homework assignments. And I became a little bit frustrated. And I said, why are you punishing me? And she said, nope, I'm not punishing you. You'll understand one day. So she even asked me to memorize a song that made no sense to me as a third grader. And it was called The Army Goes Rolling Along, over hill, over dale. And I recall feeling just, again, so frustrated and why are you punishing me? And again, she reassured me that she wasn't doing so. And so again, I felt pretty oppressed, but these lyrics said that a group or an army must keep rolling along despite adversity and casualties. And granted, I get it now. I didn't understand at that time. And she did say in due time, I will understand. So again, little did I know how powerful the song's message would become for me as I continued my educational odyssey. Now I'm thinking about some of, as I go through this, so you can see these roots, and my goal in doing the work that I do is this is at the surface level, our roots, wherever we are, and what you see at the top is just again, to unearth the roots and to dismantle those structures, because if not, things will continue to grow and blossom and bud in very negative ways. So I'm hoping to rid or break barriers in these areas. I now like to share with you, so I like the idea of being free as a person who is working towards social justice and the eradication of social injustice. So I think about this encapsulation stage. Now, you see kind of who I am now, but I like to share pictures that I dug out from the archives. I mean, really into the deep, deep archives. So here I am as a baby, and that's my mother to the left of the screen. And needless to say, did I know what I was in for as this child and growing up in a several hundred acre farm, again, with no running water, having a mother who was quite an outstanding mother, but yet again, she didn't have the ability to help me with homework or any of those kinds of things. So here's our pictures of us, my mother and my baby sister. And you'll see other sisters a little bit later. Again, these are a little bit blurred because they came from the archives and they are pretty old images. As I move further, here's my father. His name was Major. And I mentioned, and as I share it with you, I'll bring my mother back in another context. I think about my dad. He had unusual visual acuity. He was always called upon to do things that required real delicate work. He also was a golfer. He hit 2 holes in 1 year. And he also was well known in town as I call him a pool shark, because he was able to play pool almost like no other. So he had a reputation in that way. And then my mother, again, as a maker, she made mostly all of our clothes. She was a quilter, and she also used to do these wonderful pencil drawings. And I didn't understand, like, Mom, how did you know how to draw these people? But she just said, I just know how to. And I didn't understand what that meant, but also I never had art courses as well. So again, I grew up around makers. So here they are as a couple, older, and they stayed married. They are no longer with us. They are our ancestors now. And my mother and father were married for over 50 years. And he preceded her in death, and now they're together. And I have 3 sisters. To the left, that's my oldest sister, Ida, and I'm at the right at the top, and then my baby sister, Linda, to the left, and then Edna to the right. And at one point, we all lived in different areas. And again, we grew up in different areas after we left home and went to college. But again, a family of makers and people who had creative ambitions and work, even though I'm the only one that went into the field of art education. And I went into art education only because I was interested in going into design. And I was so excited. And I thought, oh my gosh, I can teach these kinds of things and help other people understand the value of the arts. And so that's what led me on my journey. And I used to always, at these stages, I would, every picture, every report that I did, I draw an image on the cover if we had to do. I remember one specifically, a report about presidents, and I chose President Lincoln, and people were so amazed by how accurate they felt the drawing was. And again, I had no one who taught me these kinds of skills. And then here we are as a family together after a gathering, and we see from the parents sitting together. And this is my father's parents, Grandpa Tolly to the left and Grandma Alice. And it's my understanding that Grandpa Tolly, I did not know him like I knew the next grandparents that you'll see. This is on my father's side because they lived what we call downtown. And again, remember, we lived on several 100-acre farm. And when I say downtown, Reedsville, North Carolina, that probably would have been about a 5-minute drive, but we just didn't get there that frequently. And my grandfather was known to be a construction worker and quite creative in that way. And my grandma Alice also was a quilter and a maker as well. And then here's my grandmother on my mother's side, Mary Sue, lovely lady, kind, gentle, but she made quilts, some of the most beautiful quilts you can imagine. And she sewed, and some of those skills we learned from her because we would tie the strings and knots, and I would always sit by her and ask her questions, and she would even sew without a pattern. She would just make these lovely clothes. And then my grandfather, Joe Neal, he was a whittler. If you know what that means, he carved, and he took this pocket knife and he would make things and shave the wood away from a particular object and sculpt it. And I remember him making furniture as well. So that was really quite outstanding to see him learn and do those kinds of things, and we witness it. And here I am growing up in high school. And when I think about high school, I always loved learning, and I always loved school. So I was very eager to enroll in Reedsville Senior High School, the only high school in my whole hometown. It was there that I ended up with having a white teacher, a 9th grade geometry teacher. I asked him to explain a particular mathematical concept. And rather than assist me, he said, instead, did they teach you anything at that old school where you came from? I never asked Mr. Clark for help again. And at that point, it really dawned on me that I was going to have to really work extra hard to achieve academically. So unlike my white classmates, parents and my parents were not able to assist me with my homework and other academic assignments because of their limited formal education, nor did my parents have the monetary means to provide a tutor for me or cover expensive test preparation courses or expensive art education classes because they weren't offered in our schools. So no doubt my resolve to work hard has paid off and my academic achievements and in my professional career. However, this does not absolve society from addressing the unequal conditions that necessitate young people from having to work extra hard. Indeed, we might read the requirement of having to work extra hard as a form of injustice, highlighting the lack of a level playing field in education and employment. I also think about a teacher that I had, a white male sociology teacher. He allowed students to play cards. He allowed them to sleep in class every day and do crossword puzzles. I used his class time as a study hall. I remember on one occasion when Mr. Coy asked the class, "What do you want to do today?" Well, instead of being silent and allowing the most vocal students to encourage the teacher to let them goof off, I said, "Well, I want you to teach sociology, since one day I intend to go to college." So I was excited about telling my teacher that. Well, Mr. Coy stood up from behind his desk in a very intimidating manner and announced to the class in a very sarcastic tone, "I guess I have to teach you sociology today because somebody in here plans to go to college." Boy, did I feel small. The major issue that seemed to have, or the sin that I had committed was asking my teacher to teach me. So throughout my high school years, I continued to work extra hard. I took college parallel courses. That's really the equivalent of advanced placement courses offered in many high schools today. And not just the courses offered in our regular high school curriculum. In most instances, this meant that I would be the only Black person in a given CP class. My white teachers would ask me consistently, "Do you understand, Wanda?" They did not ask the white students repeatedly whether they understood. Their assumption of my inferiority, although a psychological burden, motivated me to try harder and to prove them wrong. I did understand, and I demonstrated this by graduating in the top 5% of my class. So here I am in college. College also was pretty transformational to me because these are stages of my development. And when I think about encapsulation and entanglements, this was a kind of a last minute decision, but I went to a historically Black university for my undergraduate work. And that, when I think about the doors of the traditional all white schools were no longer, segregated, but it opened the doors for predominantly white Reesville Senior High. And even though that was the case, I chose a historically Black college, which was North Carolina Central University, where I majored in art education. And it was reminiscent of my early years in segregated elementary schools. I wanted to return to an academic environment where I would feel valued. This was really a last minute decision since I had already been accepted into the predominantly white university of my choice. So at North Carolina Central University, the student body in general and I shared similar cultural backgrounds. Also, the majority of my teachers looked like me. I remember 2 Black female art professors or art education professors who took extraordinary measures to nurture my intellect. They were Dr. Anderson and Dr. Simpson, again, pseudonyms, and one of those is alive and I talked with her very recently. They lovingly mentored me in my quest for academic excellence and provided even financial support to me to attend the National Art Education Association conference in both Philadelphia and Houston. They consistently wrote letters of recommendation on my behalf and nominated me for academic awards throughout my undergraduate years. My experiences confirm research that suggests many top Black students choose traditional Black colleges because they find them more hospitable, caring, and nurturing than traditional white colleges and universities. So this historically Black college I attended became a safe space for me with regard to race, gender, and class. These factors experienced as a triple threat in this other areas and other historically white institutions have become a triple blessing rather than a triple threat for me in this safe space of NCCU. Now, this does not imply that an historically Black institution would be safe space for every Black student. Nonetheless, it was a safe space for me. I graduated magna cum laude from North Carolina Central University. So, so again, I decided to get into plays, and right here, this is a play in which I'm speaking or in the process of listening during that play. So when I graduated, again, from high school, I graduated. I was one of the only students chosen to give my graduation speech. This was kind of historic again, as being a Black person in a predominantly white, blue collar, rural setting in the Deep South. And I remember how proud my father was, who could not read. He kept telling everybody, he would stand up, "That's my daughter, that's my daughter." And I remember my mom said, "Please be quiet so we can hear what she's saying." So he just was so excited because he did not have those opportunities. And he was so proud of his daughters that we were doing things that he never would have that opportunity to do. Well, of course, I ended up getting married and to a military guy, military officer, Julius, and you'll see some additional military pictures a little bit later. But that's when I started seeing a lot of the world. And from that stage, later on, I'll pick back up on some of the areas of those stages of development in terms of a butterfly. But I had such experiences. Every 2 to 3 years, we moved to another part of the world. So even though I've done a lot of traveling since that time, I probably have already visited about 50 countries and 6 of the 7 continents. So that's when I really started to consumption. I was taking in so much food like a hungry caterpillar, but I was gaining knowledge. And that knowledge and the arts and cultures really strengthened my resolve that this is the work that I need to do and need to continue. And also, as I traveled about the world, I saw many of the inequities without a doubt with a lot of brown and Black skin-toned individuals. And in many instances, I saw issues of class and other kinds of forms of oppression that made me want to learn and grow in these areas. So let me just move back a second. So I would fill up my passport and I would have to get extra pages. And I'm just sharing you some of the sites. This may have been somewhere in Europe, and I'm thinking it was somewhere in London or somewhere in that area. I know this was in Finland, traveling there, and in one tropical country here. And then another area, I just started taking pictures and without belaboring the locations. And then we did some personal travel as well, throughout different regions of countries. And this was in Okinawa, Japan. And here I am looking like a kid, but I was pregnant at that time. And after several years of marriage, we decided to have children. And this is an Oban festival to your right. I was following this Oban festival and traveling for hours around as they were dancing in the streets. And that's when I went into labor. So after that, while I was in, I had a daughter born in Japan, and then we came back to the United States. And while I was in Japan, I should tell you that I worked in the USO, that's the United Services Organization, in which I served as an artist, a staff artist. So I did all their publicity and calendars and a lot of the drawings and work. And at that time, we didn't have the technology and the computer systems that we have now to do it. So much of that was free-handed work that I did and really enjoyed it while I was pregnant and then in Okinawa, Japan. So I took my first job. This is my first teaching assignment in Stafford County Schools in Northern Virginia. And the mornings, I taught 7th and 8th grade art classes at Garrisonville Middle School. And in the afternoons, I taught 6th grade art classes in Stafford Middle School. So the vast majority of the students were white, and most of them had parents and guardians affiliated with the military. So I was one of 3 Black females teaching at Garrisonville Middle and one of 3 Black teachers, 1 male and 2 women at Stafford Middle. So my principal in Garrisonville was a Black man and his assistant principal was a white man. So at Stafford, both the principal and assistant principal were white men. So I just remember at Stafford Middle, when I came back one day, my assistant principal had a 6-foot Confederate flag plastered on the wall in his office directly behind his desk. And that was in my first year of teaching, so I didn't know what to think about that. So the school's guidance counselor, also a white woman, dressed up like Aunt Jemima for Halloween that year. She smeared black substance on her face and her body. It really looked like some kind of black shoe polish. And she exaggerated the size of her lips by painting them bright red. She had also tied a white scarf around her head with a bow positioned in front, and she wore an apron and baggy clothes. And I'm going to say with big boobs to match. Most of the white teachers and students found her acts amusing, and the principal actually paraded her throughout the hallways from classroom to classroom. But the few Black students and Black teachers failed to see the humor in her racist shenanigans. And at that time, I was the gifted and talented art teacher. And I remember some of the students who were in a gifted and talented program being so excited about what was going on. And I thought, these are very bright students and parents. And I was really shocked, by their response. So following the incident, I wondered how many Black students in our school, and any students for that matter, would feel comfortable going to the guidance counselor for assistance. Also, I wondered how many students felt safe going to the principal or the assistant principal after a racial matter. So the white teachers and the white school secretary also, and this is another one of my teaching moments, I was there a few years before we moved in the military, reminded me that I don't talk and act like other Black people. But when I hear such remarks coming from white people, I think they have a preconceived notion of how Black people talk and behave. So after having taught in 2 other school districts, I landed a job as an elementary teacher, again in an overwhelmingly white upper middle class district in Michigan. Which I'll never forget about Erie Elementary School, is that when I first introduced myself to my primarily white students as a new art teacher, some of them started to cry. Others expressed their fears by not talking to me, avoiding eye contact, and some left the room complaining they felt sick. Several students asked me to leave the door open, suggesting that I might harm them in some way if the door were closed. I recognized that if my students did not feel psychologically and physically safe in my art classroom, I could not teach them about art or anything for that matter. So to allay their fears, I allowed them to spend as much time as they needed to get to know me. I allowed them to ask questions and express any concerns that they might have about me. And I found that very interesting. So their white parents and guardians also had to know that their students were safe with me. And I remember always, so to that end, even when I brought my own children to that school, the police would stop us and say, we can't go into the building because they assumed we were from Detroit. So to that end, I made my classroom accessible to the parents and caregivers, encouraged them to volunteer or visit at their convenience. Well, no one took me up on my offer. Instead, nearly every parent showed up the first year for Meet the Teacher Night. What occurred a few weeks after school had started. So everybody had blocked the hallway, and I'm not exaggerating when I say nearly 400 people down one wing. So the inquisitive ones hoped to see me and hear about my vision for the art education program. I found out from the principal, Dr. Brunch, who was a white woman whom I respected and admired for her positive, fair, and competent leadership. She said, when I was hired, several parents had questioned whether I might be, I quote, articulate enough and, quote, intelligent enough to teach, quote, their kinds of kids. On Meet the Teacher night, I was totally engulfed again by these students and parents and relatives. So this precarious looking situation prompted Dr. Brun to push through the crowd to make sure that I was okay. While from the outset, I had spent a disproportionate amount of time trying to make students, parents, and community feel comfortable and safe with me, in retrospect, I wonder whether perhaps I should have spent more time attending to my own physical and psychological well-being in this unsafe space. So women in particular must recognize that caring for ourselves is good, not just for us, but for those to whom we provide service and care. So in this predominantly white affluent Chippewa Valley, I was frequently stopped, as I mentioned, by the security as I tried to gain access. I worked extra hard again to let the students know that I was not a person to be feared and that I really genuinely cared about them. As time went on, the students became really more comfortable with me. And I must say they loved me and I loved them and shared their excitement about what they were learning in my art classes. However, just when I thought that all was going well, my principal summoned me to the office and told me a white male parent had started a rumor in the community. The rumor was that I was using mind-altering drugs on the children because his son had suddenly grown excited about coming to school and talked about how he, quote, just loved his new art teacher, unquote. Well, surely I could not be that good. My principal never questioned my character or the validity of that rumor. We both recognized that the rumor was grounded in fear and fueled by the racist and classist assumption that all Black people use or distribute illicit drugs and talented people in the arts must be hooked on them. So when I myself became a principal, not one of 3 schools in which I served had ever had a female principal, and 2 of them had never had a person of color. So throughout my service in these schools, I frequently heard comments from parents, teachers, and community members questioning whether a woman could handle day-to-day affairs as well as discipline. Moreover, I was characterized by some of the teachers criticized for not being as harsh of a disciplinarian as my male predecessors, because the students liked me and did not fear me. And I found that very interesting because I walked through the hallways and I went to every classroom every morning and I knew every student in the school, and I'd say good morning, good evening, and I was always there unless I had a meeting in the district somewhere. And some teachers like to threaten the students with, I'm sending you to the principal, and they would go, good, she'll listen, she's fair. And then that took away the threat from those teachers, so they sometimes complain. So I think what happens also in Elyria, Ohio, on one occasion when I found myself in the main office with my white male assistant principal, parents and most visitors to the school assumed that my white assistant was a principal. They come in, I need to talk to the principal, where is he? And then when they point to me, many of them were like, oh, whoa, then all of a sudden they forgot what they came in for, what they were irate about. But I attribute this bias to the fact that educational institutions reflect societal norms. The norms are that white men are usually in charge, and the women, particularly Black women, are often subordinate. So, so these are the kids that I have. This is Francesca to the left while I was teaching, and Mark to the right, and our family picture together. And then as they grew up, they started, and here's one of the schools that I mentioned earlier that I taught, where I served as principal. In the Columbus Afrocentric School, in this case, when I took on this role, I sought something greater for the students. I was an inaugural principal here, so I applied for an Annenberg Challenge Grant and received it, and this school became a TTAC school in which the arts were at the center and the focus in this particular curriculum. So obviously I went to college and I got my degree from the Ohio State University, my PhD. And of course, I'm still consuming. I'm consuming so much knowledge, so getting so much information. And I was thrilled to now call this place my home and my alma mater. So then I sought safe spaces in academia. So when I started my journey as a university professor in a predominantly white research institution, I really believed that it would be a place where I could be viewed as a legitimate scholar. and I will be judged by my hard work and scholarship. However, race, gender, and class stereotypes and expectations continue to serve as impediments toward overcoming sometimes injustices in academia. So my path at times can become bumpy and still these twists and turns. And I also remember when I went to Ohio State, the Ohio State University, a person telling me that the only reason that I was there was because of affirmative action, not because I had a 4.0 average in my master's and that I graduated magna cum laude and ultimately ended up with an extremely high GPA from the Ohio State University. So again, there's a standard academic lens through which race, gender, and class are examined, and that is usually of white males in middle class culture, which posits an adversarial stance toward those who are judged as not being, again, of the right race, gender, or class. So again, I find these are things that shaped me along my journey and were very instrumental in causing me to be who I am today. So I would not change any of those experiences. So again, as a consequence of misunderstandings and misinterpretations of what I mentioned earlier, how affirmative action operates, more often than not, I'm assumed to be less qualified than a white person. Thus, I have to resist these dominant and narrow explanations of my positions and social locations and prove myself as otherwise. So I want to say that also, when we think of people who would like to say that we are getting a leg up, it's important to help them understand what that really means and who really, given how society is structured, who really has gotten a leg up. And that's why it was important for me to talk about they're forgetting the long history of informal and entrenched forms of affirmative action on behalf of whites. In other words, racial privilege in business and employment, promotion, education, and academic admissions, politics, criminal justice, housing, and I could go on and on. So I think about these safe spaces that I wanted to make for my children, my daughter, again, as I started to reflect upon some of her experiences, it wasn't just me. She started to have those experiences in school. And I remember in Michigan, a male student in her class called her a black monkey and told her to go back to Africa, climb a tree and eat a banana. Well, I told her to tell her teacher, and she told her teacher, and the teacher said, well, he's just joking. And then I told her to tell her principal because I didn't encourage my students to fight or have conflict. The principal also told her to ignore this thing and, explain, what do you want me to do? Have him jump off a bridge or step in front of a semi-truck. No doubt one way of dealing with racism in the educational system is to ignore it. However, advocating that racism is ignored can leave inequalities protected and unchallenged. Moreover, it relies upon the individual or collectivity experiencing racism to deal with it themselves, as opposed to, for example, requiring the culprits to acknowledge and challenge their discourse and behavior. So the ignore it is a response. They may also hint at potential fruitlessness of complaining about racisms. Also, the requirement that an individual ignore racisms generate a level of psychic stress, as it requires considerable suppression and control of one's emotions and demands a high degree of work on the self. So again, these reflections to me, so as I reflect upon my resistance to these racist classes and sexist practices that operate to restrict life choices, civil rights, social mobility, and access, I recognize my daughter's transgressive journey as well. Like me, she's had to negotiate oppressive systems that pose triple threats to her academic achievement. So despite a lifetime of covert and overt racism and messages of inferiority, being told by her white female high school guidance counselor that she was not, quote, four-year college material, Francesca has obtained a bachelor's degree in early childhood education, and she's a teacher, and a master's degree in educational administration, and she probably has enough credits for her PhD soon. So with that said, now she has two daughters of color, Layla and Alyssa. They're two future Black women, and my son, Mark, and his wife, Angela, who is also a woman of color. They have two daughters of color, Sienna and Maya. to future women of color. So we're preparing them for their transgressive journey by trying to create safe spaces for them wherever they are. So these reflections caused me to really go deep into myself and thought about what it meant to work for equity and equality and education. And I thought about it being in these spaces, about ignoring, about helping people to overcome, rather than, I thought it was important to be otherwise rather than being othered. So as a perceived others, I've had to been forced to acquire wisdom and knowledge, conduct, habits, and ways of being that challenge the assumptions of those who are in dominant positions of power in these dominant spaces. So this mode of coping places the onus of responsibility for dealing with racism, classism, and sexism on the oppressed individual. And so you see kind of a light or discoloration on my face. So even though I identify as being a Black woman, we all are really related because my DNA shows me that I am white, I am Asian, and I am sub-Saharan African. So whatever that portionality is, we're all connected in various ways. So how do we create these safe spaces for ourselves? By drawing from our inner resources. We can do it by having a faith of being self-determined rather than being other-determined. So my Odyssey has taught me that I do not always need outside inspiration or physical space to feel safe. But a more effective way to diminish the effects of institutional racism, classism, and sexism for those who have been disenfranchised historically is for educators to focus attention on organizational and structural impediments in schools and other teaching contexts that result in poor academic performance. We can expose inequities inherent within our educational organization and within our own teaching context that shift the burden of responsibility for responding to racism, classism, and sexism away from the oppressed and onto the institutions and structures that perpetuate oppression. So we can create safe spaces for these kinds of dialogues. And I'm thinking about pre-service and practicing teachers really need to develop a more critical awareness of these topics that I'm sharing and other social issues and their impact on teaching and learning. Again, so that they can respond accordingly when issues of racism, among others, are reported and or observed in schools and other educational contexts. So that means we have to vote an increased amount of time to discussions of inequalities in educational systems. Ideally, these would entail mainstreaming and embedding them in coursework. So when we think about the overemphasis on high standards and personal achievement in education, it's important to advocate for educational policy that attends to issues of social justice and equity. So again, in our face, we can, in our particular field, we can promote scholarship that values learning from lived experiences, which I'm sharing with you, with further emphasis on critically examining some other discourses in terms of privileges, middle class or white privilege, or achievement of the middle class in all fields. So I'd like to go further to talk about how some of these things have served as transformation to me. And I'm going to share my family as they are today. And this is my son, and the student in the middle is one of my former students, actually, undergraduate students. And I tell people that I didn't do the matchmaking, but they're together now, and it's a beautiful arrangement as a couple. And she is an art teacher, and my daughter to the left, and her husband. And then there's Alyssa on the lower left, and Layla on the right, and me and my husband, Julius. So, and this is Sienna. She is the baby now of the married couple that you just saw, my son and his wife. And we also, Sienna just turned 2 at the end of June. And here's baby Maya. She's now 6 months old. And so I'm thinking about these students of color and how do we reveal, and this is what really, honed it in for me, not just the military things that I share, all of those influenced social justice, but that's when I decided I want to be the change. I have to be the change. And of course, the courses that I taught and the courses that I teach deal with diversity. My publications, more than 50 of those deal with diversity related topics, social justice related topics, the kinds of service, all of these are inextricably linked. And I said that I have to be the change. And that's when I became a social justice activist. And I got dubbed the title of Wakanda Knight, for those of you who know Black Panther. So I thought that that was appropriate. So that's what my social media uses for Instagram. I just decided I'm gonna stick with it because I do fight for social justice, and I advocate for social justice because everything doesn't have to be a fight. I think we can use some forms of advocacy. So my work reflects, again, my efforts to unpack, reveal, challenge, and erase institutional, structural, and social barriers that operate to restrict, again, like I said, our civil rights, social mobility, our life choices. I question how effective education is in awakening critical stances and enabling visions of social justice. And what strategies can we use to deal with human rights issues? So my desire to prepare pre-service art teachers to be agents of change for social justice, I really use an interdisciplinary approach that draws upon research from various disciplines, including art education, history, sociology, cultural studies, and gender studies, to explore issues of diversity in various contexts. And those will be schools, mass media, the art world, cultural institutions such as museums and community arts organizations. And I employ certain strategies to encourage active learning. Sometimes my work, mostly, unlike I'm doing tonight, lecturing, most of my work is not lecturing, it's about discussion. Because again, in doing so, I want to have these discussions that sometimes allow role playing, simulations, brainstorming, and debates. I use controversy because some of these topics are controversial. And it's called the pedagogy of discomfort. So I anticipate some issues may cause discomfort and evoke cross-cultural controversy. Even so, I do use these deliberately to stimulate reflection and spur discussion and debate. So but I keep in mind that the overarching goal, however, is not to simply achieve a polarizing debate, but rather to achieve a productive dialogue. I also do a lot with intentional engagement. Art teachers, I recognize my responsibility to prepare them both mentally and emotionally for that experience. So I deal with these topics that can become very charged. So I do have to keep in mind, when you shake people up, you have to understand professionally how to help them come back together. So autobiographical journaling, I think reflection is really critical. I encourage my students to keep a journal of personal and critical reflections in which I want them to talk back to the world, not just accept things that they see, by posting essential, critical, posing these questions concerning access, equity, and social justice. Who is included? Who is missing? Who is privileged? Who is disadvantaged? Why is a particular practice fair or unfair? What is its cause? What is needed to create change? So once you ask all these questions, then challenge the answers that you get. I also believe a lot in field-based experiences in order to bring further relevance to issues of social justice or injustice. I have them connect. I actually conduct observations in different settings, sometimes urban schools. And because we sometimes don't have a lot of those in the area and the context in which I work, sometimes they do those when they go home, or other kinds of opportunities to take note of perceived unjust situations and circumstances. And I want them to think about tracking low expectations, stereotyping, labeling that happens in schools and undemocratic classroom communities. And then I always am important for students. I encourage them to do collaborative group work. I do a lot with that final project, and I want them to look at these isms. And we know isms are systems. And when you even think about the notion of racism, or even we talk about whiteness is not an attack on white people. It is about a system that has afforded some people opportunities and denied other people those same opportunities. So I required them to include a social action component, because when teachers take on these topics, I want them to think about what they can do to be agents of change. So there is a social action component in which they contemplate what they can and will do about a particular social injustice. So again, I say a lot of my work is polemical. I bring about these passionate arguments that are designed to be unsettling and uncomfortable. And I don't really have any interest in maintaining the status quo. I believe we should get comfortable being uncomfortable, because I believe, in my opinion, just like that butterfly, no doubt as the butterfly grows within that chrysalis, it becomes uncomfortable. And I like to read this history with these current times, and then develop pedagogical strategies and make recommendations to educate teachers and students through art to be agents of change for social justice. So, so the information that I just shared with you, these things have continued to inform my work. So like a butterfly, I continue to learn, grow, and change. And I really think that I have to ask myself, this is about breaking barriers. And here's one of the people right now with the work that I'm doing, former executive director of NAEA, Dr. Deborah Reeve. And she and I like to credit her with a lot of the work that I served as a catalyst for the equity, diversity, and inclusion work, the ED&I, where these are some of the things that I've done. I've led all these diversity focused areas. I have served on editorial journals, but all of this has led to this moment of equity, diversity, and inclusion within our field. And there's more I can say about that. And here's some of the diversity focused things that I've done throughout my career. And some of those, I've headed diversity strategic planning for major educational institutions, schools, school districts, among others. And I served as president of the United States Society for Education through the Arts. And I written and received grants. So I chaired the National Art Education Association Task Force, as I mentioned, on equity, diversity, and inclusion, with 19 people from all over the nation representing a great deal of diversity. And that one of the recommendations was to create a commission for equity, diversity, and inclusion to make sure the work is sustained. And I currently serve as an inaugural commissioner on that commission. And again, serving as a consultant. And as was already mentioned, I was elected to serve as NAEA president. So these are very exciting things that have happened. And I'd like to share some insights before I wrap up, that have kept me doing the work that I do. So how or why did I become a butterfly? So these are some insights. Well, I wanted to fly so much that I was willing to give up being a caterpillar. In other words, what the caterpillar calls the end, the butterfly calls the beginning. Like a butterfly, I continue to grow and change and find my true colors in art making, teaching, leadership, and in life. So having been given gifts of guidance and teaching and the trust that I will apply what I've learned, I have to become more than just an art educator. Or will you be just an art teacher? So while both questions may seem like the same, they are different. Unlike the former, the latter question has implications for social justice leadership. So with that said, I'd like to now share the notion of what sustains me and my ability to address social injustice. Passion. I believe we have to have passion for social justice. That should really fuel whatever we do. Right now, I'm serving in the role of Assistant Dean for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. So this dovetails my work very beautifully. So as art educators, it's our responsibility to acquire the knowledge, skills, and dispositions necessary to transform unjust educational structures into different settings for teaching and learning. Beliefs, our leadership reflects our worldview. As art educators, we bring our values, our beliefs, and our assumptions to our work. So our personal beliefs concerning social justice will determine whether we lead with an eye towards social justice or whether we teach with an eye towards social justice. And then when I think about curriculum, teachers, we're gatekeepers to the curriculum. Every act of teaching and leadership is political. As just art teachers and leaders, we exercise political choice when we incorporate social justice issues into our lessons. Likewise, we use political choice when we avoid topics of social justice in the curriculum. In each case, we have made a conscious or subconscious judgment about the value of equity and social justice. And the notion of change is unavoidable. I mean, if we don't know that by now, particularly with this pandemic and ongoing pandemic among other areas. Therefore, it's best to affect change as change makers rather than let change affect us as change takers. And in being a change maker, we are risk takers. And I think about success and failure. Some people are afraid because they say, what if I fail? Well, failure is feedback. When leading for social justice, we art educators must give ourselves permission to fail in order to succeed. As babies, we learn to walk by falling. With every failure, we were one step closer to reaching our goal. And perseverance. To persevere is to really keep trying. It is better to try and fail rather than fail to try to affect change for social justice. Determination and persistent effort leads to success. And of course, pandemic made us, in many cases, understand the importance of social networking because we were looking at screens and we were disconnected from individuals physically. So with that said, isolation can hinder our efforts. It is valuable for art educators to stay energized. It's really important. By developing supportive social networks with like-minded progressive educators who have oriented their work towards social change and social justice. And then lastly, it is our responsibility. Art educators have a tremendous responsibility. Our responsibility goes beyond just teaching though. We have a responsibility to be agents of change for social justice in our classrooms and other workspaces. Anything less, we deny learners opportunities to study past and present social justice movements that might offer inspiration that schools and societies can change for the better. Two, we deny youth opportunities to advocate for a change. And we model apathy in reaction to global issues and concerns. So acting as an agent for change requires deep personal commitment and requires confidence that change is possible. So with that said, if we fan the flames of social justice, what will emerge from the ashes will be conditions far better than those that currently exist. Thank you, Wakanda.
Thank you so much, Dr. Knight. What an incredible narrative that you've shared with us and that you continue to live. I know all of us will want to follow you as you continue your work. Before we have our dean say a few words, I wanted to recognize Dr. Knight's family that was here tonight. I don't know if you want to unmute or say hello.
How you doing?
Hey, that's my son, Mark, y'all I just talked about. And I showed you him with clothes because he's a professional bodybuilder. And,
Absolutely.
And among other things. Thank you.
I just want to say I'm so proud of my mother. One thing I can tell about my mother is from a very, very young age, she really put everything into becoming a better person, a better educator. I've had many arguments with my mom telling her to sleep because she'll stay awake 24 hours for days trying to better herself and better her craft. So I'm very, very proud. I love her deeply. And I just want to say congratulations.
Thank you. Wow. You're going to bring tears to my eyes.
Absolutely.
I'm going to say hello also.
Francesca, my daughter, there she is too. Oh my gosh.
Yes, I'm here. I just wanted to say hi.
Hello. Hi. This makes oh my gosh. I won't go to sleep
Hello,
tonight.
this is her sister, Linda Bullock.
Hi, Linda. Wow. This is amazing.
I'm so proud of you, my sister.
Thank you. Wow. So proud of you. Wow.
And my name is Ida Pickard. This is my husband, Jimmy Pickard. I am Wanda's oldest sister. And I have to say that growing up, I felt like she always looked up to me. But now I have to say I look up to her, and we are very proud of her.
Wow. Thank you all so much. Oh my gosh, I'm so fortunate to have such a loving and caring family like you all. And when I say that, those are my blood, but you are my family too, all of you who are out here. And this was what makes it so beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for sharing those words. What a testament again to Dr. Knight and everything that you've contributed. I'm going to introduce Elizabeth Mullenix, our dean here at the College of Creative Arts, and hand it over to you.
Hi, thank you, Stephanie. I just want to say it's such an honor, Dr. Knight, to have you present. And I was going to say I'm so sad that I can't meet you in person, but then having the opportunity to see your family here is just something that makes these, a Zoom event so special in that way. And so so I look forward someday to meeting you in person, but it's just such an honor to have you here tonight. And I want to say, that I attend a lot of events as the Dean of the College of Creative Arts, and this is always one of my favorite events because it's so unique. And students, I'm speaking to you because I think that you really are incredibly fortunate, blessed, lucky to have this opportunity, because for over 40 years, the thought leaders in art education, right, the most prestigious scholars and educators have come to Miami or participated virtually to share with you their inspirational stories. And I know of no other discipline where those kinds of stories are collected by the most prestigious scholars in the field. And so it's really unique, and it's really incredibly significant. And if you go to grad school, young people, you'll look back at this list of scholars and you'll think, wow, I can't believe that all of those people spoke at my university, because they are the top people in my field. And so that it's incredible. So and we're especially honored, Dr. Knight, to have you here. I think that what is so wonderful about this lecture series too is that it is autobiographical, and that there is a real there's something really special in hearing someone's personal story, and also hearing about how the personal is political. I think that is an especially important story to hear at Miami, which, like Penn State, is a predominantly white institution. So for us to think about consciousness raising, to think about social justice, to think about white privilege, to think about the fact that the playing field is not level, to think about the significance of the work of anti-racism and how we need to do better at this predominantly white institution is a really important message for our students right now. And so I thank you for that so much. And you mentioned Maya Angelou, who is also one of my favorite poets. And I tell my students all the time a quote of hers, which is, history, despite its wrenching pain, cannot be unlived, but if faced with courage, need not be lived again. And your story really, I think, is a great illustration of that. And so I thank you so much for your really powerful work and for sharing that with us tonight. So thank you. It's a great honor to have you here.
Wow, thank you. And it's my honor and pleasure to be here and to receive such a distinguished honor. Thank you so much.
Our Department Chair of Art, Rob Robbins, is also here, and I think might want to say hello.
I will. Thank you, Stephanie. And I just, first, I want to express my incredible gratitude to Dr. Knight for coming and in such a candid and personal way, sharing her story, your story, which at many times sort of gave me chills and it made me shake my head and wonder how. But in the Department of Art, I think we're fortunate to have a collection of students and faculty who are constantly sort of reconsidering what their role is and questioning how they can affect the world in a powerful and meaningful way. And ultimately what we do, I think, in all our areas of the Department of Art is we shape experience and we learn how to influence people in meaningful and powerful ways. And with that comes a certain, an incredible degree of responsibility. And so I think moments like this that we've had tonight are paramount in giving our students and our faculty the opportunity to sort of shape how they want to treat this responsibility. And so I just want to really deeply thank Dr. Baer and Dr. Danker for all the effort and energy they put into this event and preserving this lecture series every year. And give my most sincere gratitude to you, Dr. Knight, for helping us, shape the way we're going to be from here forward, as a department, as an art educators, as artists, and as good citizens of the world. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Robbins.
Well, thank you all for being here again. And this talk will be available on the archives once we get everything up and running. And please do come visit again. In November, we're lucky enough to host Dr. Knight again for a workshop. And so stay tuned. We hope to get lots more from this amazing scholar.
Thank you, both Dr. Stephanies, for your work there and Danker. And all of the other people out there who took the time from your busy schedules to be here tonight. I have a lot of gratitude, so thank you.
All right, have a wonderful evening, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.